Free quote today. 1-800-694-1010. Details on example rate at select.
Greg Bakken here. Like you, I love good, fresh, delicious food. So I want to tell you about this treasure in Roseville called Maverick's Real Roast Beef. Maverick's has the best roast beef sandwiches I've ever had. Made fresh every order. Add fries or onion rings dropped in the fryer when ordered, and you have a winning combination. Maverick's Real Roast Beef has a lot more than roast beef, so check out their website, mavericksbeef.com, or check out their restaurant on Lexington in Roseville.
Hi, I'm Peter Solak.
And I'm Adam Ostrowski.
We are here at Woodland Stoves and Fireplaces to talk about outdoor fires. Sitting around a fire is the oldest, most basic form of human activity.
What's new is in the way fire is burned. We can show you how to burn cleaner with a lot less smoke.
The radiant heat and light from an open fire is unmatched. It kindles our spirits and connects us to the outdoors. And now it's easier to experience and enjoy.
Woodland Stoves and Fireplaces sells and installs wood and gas burning fire pits and fireplaces. Let us help you experience an outdoor fire without all the smoke.
Come see the many ways you can enjoy a fire outdoors.
Woodland Stoves and Fireplaces has over 35 working wood and gas units on display at the corner of East Franklin and Riverside Avenue in Minneapolis. More information at woodlandstoves.com. Find the fire that works for you. Woodland Stoves and Fireplaces. Out of the ordinary products and services since 1977.
It's back to school time, which means getting back to school ready. One important thing to add to your to-do list this year is making sure your child is up to date on their vaccinations. Getting vaccinated will help your family avoid missing out on school, activities, work, family events, and vacation. Keep your family healthy by talking with your healthcare provider or visiting our free vaccination clinics in Minneapolis. Visit the City of Minneapolis website and search for vaccine clinics. A message from the Minneapolis Health Department.
Hey, Cudahy to all my friends and relatives in four directions. This is Robert Pilot of Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake. I'm here to ask you for your support. Finding honest Native-centered news is not easy. But with your support, we're able to provide accurate information about Standing Rock, Line 3, treaty violations, and COVID-19 in our Native communities. Please visit Native Roots Radio Network on Patreon and donate if you can. That's Native Roots Radio Network on Patreon. Pinigigi, and thank you for your support.
With your AM 950 weather, I'm Patrick Lilia. Showers and storms this evening. Some could be severe with an overnight low of 61. Then Friday, sunshine with a high of 79. Don't miss the pioneering trans comedian Alok at the Uptown Theater on October 23rd. Their new show, Harry Situation, is something you won't want to miss. Get your tickets at Ticketmaster.com.
Portions of Native Roots Radio may be pre-recorded.
It's a good day to be indigenous.
Get up, stand up.
They are going to become more brutal.
Couldn't cut, hitting cut again.
Because all the hippies were trying to be Indians anyway.
They're going to become more repressive because it's a matter of dollars and their illusionary concepts of power.
Hey, Victor.
We must live in balance with the earth.
And also with recent happenings at Wounded Knee.
I am awake. Welcome to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and I'm your host, Wakanja Hade. Hey, Cudahy to all my friends and relatives in four directions. You are listening to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and I'm your host, Robert Pilot. Hey, we discuss local, national, Native news and events, and as you know, Chujunk, Native issues are human issues, and human issues are Native issues.
Yes, you are right, Dega. This portion of the show is supported by JS Bean Factory off Randolph Avenue in St. Paul. Only the good stuff keeps us awake.
Hey, we're about to have a big storm here in St. Paul, and our guest, Robert Lilligren, who's from the Native American Community Development Institute and a White Earth Ojibwe, may have to take over the show with Brad if if the storm gets bad here. And we know Robert's an old pro, and he's many things, but he also went to the old school Brown Institute, which all the famous people went to back in the day, didn't they?
Oh, yeah. I didn't sign up to take over the show. The first wave of the storm already went by my house. It's pretty intense, but I know there's another wave coming.
Oh, geez. Well, we're all these storms this year are really kind of really telling us what's happening with our weather, I think, and it's really been a pretty crazy year. And I always used to say, Robert, that the weather people were pretty accurate, but that hasn't been recently because of this humidity. Stuff's been popping up out of nowhere.
Well, and what we've done to our planet, right, and our climate, it's so
Yep.
much less predictable. You can't really look at the past. In some ways, I feel like the more precise the technology gets, just the more range of potential experiences and events there might be. But these storms this last few days have been pretty powerful, pretty destructive. We've lucked out here in Knockwood at our house, but all around us, trees down, buildings damaged. Yeah.
Yeah, we went to the fair, my daughter and I, my Hinu, Jaleesa, and uh, our booth at the fair was saved pretty well. I think
Oh,
things
good.
were knocked over a little bit, but there was some serious damage out there and damage on the way there and on the way to the fair. So it really made us take pause. And now today too.
Yep, yep. And for those who aren't from Minnesota, the Minnesota State Fair is huge. It's a huge event, well attended. And this week, for the first time, they actually postponed the opening of the fair because they had to do storm cleanup. And it's never been postponed before. And it's whatever, I suppose, more than a century history. And so this is what's happening to our climate, and this is how
Mhm.
we're needing to adapt. And Minnesota overall is getting hotter and wetter with our
Mhm.
climate. And so, what does that mean to us as people, especially those of and to how we treat the land, how we
Mhm.
manage our infrastructure? It's going to be change, and it's going to be costly.
The last 3 years, we had a drought, and there
Right,
was wild rice I heard was growing again like it hadn't in 100 years in the Twin Cities.
right,
And that it was just, crazy, and then all of a sudden this year we have all this rain,
right.
and we don't have a drought, and then back up the winter, we had no snow, and then the year before, we had probably the 3rd largest snowfall in history.
Right, right. And it's ricing season here, as we know, and a lot of
Mhm.
our relatives are up ricing right now. And just the preliminary stuff I've heard is that even with all the water we've had, and maybe we've had too much, but it's not that abundant of a ricing season. And then the storms have brought a lot of wind that knocks out the grains, and so we'll see. Fingers crossed. You always want abundance in the ricing season.
Yeah, and our friends up north, Robert, maybe you can talk a little bit about this, but I know uh, rice and fish is really sustains the economy for a lot of our relatives up there over the years, and I know so right now too.
Right. Oh, for sure, for sure. And then, it's such a whatever. What am I trying to say? A cultural thing, right? We need our
Mhm.
rice, and so we'll see how it goes. And then it's having impact on other crops, right? And Haley
Yeah.
just stepped into the chat about corn sweat, right? Is that what it is?
Yeah, that was
Yeah,
the first I had heard of it. A
it's
lot of
that
people told me about
fungus,
corn
right?
sweat.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got
So
the sweat off the corn that we grow here. Just tons of corn here in
right.
Minnesota. But I guess it gives off its sweat and makes the moisture in the air a lot higher.
Oh, I see. I see. I think, yeah, interesting.
Oh,
Yeah,
wow.
I just learned that.
Very
Well,
interesting.
I just learned that just
We're all
right
learning
now.
together. Here.
Yes, we are. But I
Yeah,
don't know if that affects like the storms or creates higher energy for the storms. I don't know.
sure. Sure. I'm sure
Wow.
it raises the heat level here. And we're in a very agricultural part of the country, right? And the impact that climate change is having on our ability to grow. We have lots of corporate sort of farming that has done
Yeah.
a lot of negative things to our land and our water, for that matter. And so, how do we relearn how we grow food? I believe that the best solutions are local, right? Localized
Mhm.
production, localized distribution, like the old days, like the
Yeah.
family farms, the gardens in our yards. and things. And so
Mhm.
I suspect that we'll see a return to some of the older ways of farming and the traditional ways of farming.
Well, and your organization has a garden, and that's you're putting your money where your mouth is, so to
Right.
speak, because people are learning. You can have an inner city garden and eat from it, and things like that. Robert, you're roughly the same age as me, and I remember
No, but I look so much
really
younger. I look so much younger, Robert.
and taller. I look younger on radio. Oh, uh, we used to only get certain foods during a certain part of the
Oh,
year, and now
no.
it's like we get everything all the time. We're so spoiled from
Right.
either all over the country or these. You mentioned corporate farms, and
Right.
I really can't stand the corporate farms where they have thousands of cows and
Right.
pooping all over the place and all that.
Right. And thanks for the shout out to our urban farm, our Four Sisters urban
Mhm.
farm. It produces today at our Four Sisters Farmers Market. I bought all of my produce from our urban farm stand, and very local, just growing just a few blocks from where it's sold, right? So that helps. And you know, my dad was an agricultural broadcaster on the radio for a
Yes.
big chunk of his career, and so he knew a thing or two about agriculture. And I remember back in the 1970s, even when I was a kid, and he would talk to me about the direction that farming was taking in this country. And my dad said the reason we can enjoy such a high quality of life in this country is because our food production is local and very cheap. And he said, but
Mm.
that's changing. And these corporate farms will take over and gobble up all the land, and then they will be setting prices, availability. And he said, and our standard of living will change because of that. That was 50 years ago,
Yeah.
and it turns out he was right. He knew what he was
Yeah.
talking about, and what he was seeing in the future back then is what's happening now.
Yeah, it's being a old kid that my dad listened to that station every day, it's always really fun to bring up your dad because, it's a great childhood memory for me to listen to WCCO, The Good Neighbor, and, your dad, Chuck Lilligren, I'll never
Yeah,
forget that.
thanks. That
So it's
warms
fun
my
that
heart.
you're on and it's fun you're on our show too, so
I
it's,
love it.
like a legacy thing, it warms my heart too. All right. Hey, we're here with Robert Lilligren, and we'll be right back after this short break. Oh,
Stay
what?
with us.
Yes. I heard sex trafficking happens a lot in Indian country. What is that?
Here are some of the real reasons why sex trafficking happens in Indian country. Unequal gender roles that were forced on us by colonization. Communities don't have enough resources. Silence around domestic and sexual violence. Lack of attention and justice for missing and murdered Indigenous people. There's a lot of behavior that keeps our communities out of balance. These are just a few true reasons why Native communities are targeted by traffickers. When these acts of violence happen in our communities, it opens us all up for exploitation.
Sponsored by the Minnesota Indian Women's Sexual Assault Coalition.
Hey, it's Robert Pilot. I want to talk to you about the rising energy costs and how you can manage them with the help of 952 Windows. Many people have plenty of insulation in their roof and attic, but the next significant step for energy savings is installing energy-efficient windows and doors. My good friend owns 952 Windows, a part of Loyal Home. They did a remodeling job on our home 20 years ago and definitely did a better job than the other guys. I've talked to neighbors over the years that experienced contractor problems with those other guys, especially when their window and door upgrades fell short in quality and energy efficiency. But when we made our second floor addition to our home, we used 952 Windows and received an excellent price and exceptional workmanship. Since then, we've seen much lower energy bills. So for your next home remodeling project, go with 952 Windows. Trust me, you won't regret giving them a call at 952 Windows or 952windows.com.
It's back to school time, which means getting back to school ready. One important thing to add to your to-do list this year is making sure your child is up to date on their vaccinations. Getting vaccinated will help your family avoid missing out on school, activities, work, family events, and vacation. Keep your family healthy by talking with your healthcare provider or visiting our free vaccination clinics in Minneapolis. Visit the City of Minneapolis website and search for vaccine clinics. A message from the Minneapolis Health Department.
You're listening to Native Roots Radio. This is Spirit from Reservation Dogs. Get up and listen.
Welcome back to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and this is Robert Pilot.
This portion of the show is supported by Native American Community Development Institute, or NACDI, in Minneapolis.
Hey, we are back here with our friend Robert Lilligren, and Robert is the president and CEO of Native American Community Development Institute here in the Twin Cities in Minnesota. We are so happy to have you on. And Robert, I want to switch gears a little bit and talk a little bit about the national election. And I heard something from one of our guests a couple days ago, which I thought was really interesting. That we're really doing well. I think we're really doing well around the country, but we can't rest on our laurels because I believe what she said was that Hillary was this far ahead at this time in 2016. So that made me really kind of shocked a little bit and remember that trauma.
Agree. It was trauma, and there is encouraging news, but you're 100% right, Robert. We cannot rest. Elections are not magical. They are hard work, and they take every one of us contributing what we can. And that might be a few bucks here. It certainly will be a few hours on campaigns and helping out at all levels to turn out voters. But there are encouraging things, and I would say one thing that's different from this year and 2016 is the sense of momentum, of hope, of joy. And I feel like in 2016, some of that was lacking. And I think that the momentum, the hope, and joy can motivate people to get out there and do our part, right? To see what happens. And, I thought when Harris stepped in as the Democratic nominee, she had the potential to really lift up down ballot races, impact certainly the majorities in DC in the Senate and in the House, but even locally. And it feels like that's happening. And a lot of the polling data shows that, but it didn't feel that way in 2016. So that's a little bit different. And you look at some of those, kind of bellwether races, like the U.S. Senate race in Arizona, with the Republican challenger is now down in the double digits in polling. Yes. And so that's encouraging. And I think we'll see more of that. And then as you look at Harris's numbers, if you look into them, she is now up 13% in two important groups, both women and Hispanic voters nationally.
Yes.
So that's where you start growing those real majorities.
Yeah, and of course, the Gen Zers in the first time voting, how many people, there was an unbelievable amount of people that registered to vote after the vice president got in. That's a big sign too.
Right, that's a huge sign, and I'm going to make this number up, so please don't quote me on it. But I think voter registration is up something like 175% amongst Black women nationally, amongst Black women.
I did hear that.
These are generating margins of victory.
Yeah, yeah, and I did hear that too, just a few days ago. And then also, I heard a number too, and maybe Haley, you can correct me if I'm wrong, or Robert. And that's what's exciting is after the VP became the candidate for president, there was 45,000 people that signed up to help with the Democratic Party in Wisconsin. Do you remember that number?
I don't know the number. Haley, do you know it?
I don't know directly out of Wisconsin, but it seems like quite a bit.
Well, I was on another show a couple days ago out of Wisconsin, and that's what they said, and I was like, wow, that's an unbelievable number.
Right. That's the excitement factor, right? That we really need, not just in a presidential campaign, we need it as a country, right? Something to be excited about, something to be hopeful about. And I think that's going to have direct impact on a lot of races. And Now there's these bubbles being floated that there's a strong possibility of retaking the House of Representatives in DC, of broadening the majority in the Senate, and that'll mean a different kind of governing that we've had here in Minnesota, right, for the last 4 years with our trifecta, our House, our Senate, and our governor's office all being in Democratic hands. It's made a difference.
Oh, a huge difference, and I can see that, and it would be fun too to be able to push once they get elected, push them more progressive, and also talk about the Supreme Court, all these things that Biden's starting to talk or was starting to talk about.
Right.
You know, term limits, but also broadening out to 13 to match the number of what is it, the districts for the Supreme Court? It's something like that.
Oh, for appeals court districts, or I'm not sure.
Yeah,
I'm not sure
to match the number,
Sure.
and it made sense.
But
But yeah, it's just the sky's the limit if we can get the trifecta nationally.
agree, and I suspect a Harris administration in first term is going to be an extension of a lot of what President Biden has
Mhm.
been trying to move forward, but hopefully we'll have the political wherewithal to pass some of that. And you described them as progressive kinds of issues or initiatives, and I would suggest these are pretty mainstream. I mean, a lot of what you brought up is broadly supported by a majority of Americans. And so
Yes.
it's not really this kind of, oh, we're so progressive. It's really a mainstream agenda.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I saw that percentages on that filmmaker's website of that basically he had a list of everything. What was his Michael Moore had this
Okay.
unbelievable list, and 70% of the people are liberal in this country. Basically, is what it said.
Right. Or what we would call liberal today, right? It
Yeah.
might not have been liberal 25 years ago, but because the political temperature has moved so far to the right, since Reagan, it feels more liberal. But again, it's really mainstream.
Right. It is. It really is. And common sense. Things are
Right.
common sense. And even like what Wall says, mind your own business. I think we
Mind your
got
own damn business.
yeah, don't swear on my show, Robert.
Oh,
I'm
that's pretty lightweight. I could do worse. Robert. But,
I think I have done worse here. I think
I love that. I think that's going to be lifted up. I'm really looking forward to the Harris Walls interview on CNN tonight.
Yes.
I think we'll hear the things. I would be very surprised if Walls doesn't say at some point, mind your own damn business.
Yeah. Yeah, I shouldn't be, but I am so surprised and happy that Walz is on this ticket.
Oh, I
It
love
really
that.
shocked me, and then as it sunk in, and then the people got to know him, and he, that's what we see is a really smart man that can speak to the crowds and any crowd,
Right.
and off the top of his head, I know he's using a teleprompter now, but that was really funny when he told the Harris people that, "I don't know how to use a teleprompter. I never do, and
Right,
I've never
right.
seen him use
Have
one."
you ever used one? Have you ever used a teleprompter?
Yeah, I used to teach video production,
Ah,
and
right.
so,
I
yeah.
love them. I've only used them a couple times, but I love them. But most of his stuff is, sort of off the cuff, ad lib. And one of the amazing things about him as a candidate and as a governor is he just doesn't flub. He doesn't flub a lot. He knows what he wants to say, and he says it
Mhm.
eloquently and clearly. And I know you and a lot of others were surprised. I think I've shared this with you that he became the vice presidential nominee. But
Yeah.
literally, the moment that I learned that President Biden was stepping aside, Vice President Harris was stepping in, I said to the people I was with that same second, Governor Walz will be the vice presidential nominee. And everyone was like, oh, no, he won't. He's, not high enough profile, or he's from a blue state that only has 10 electoral votes. And I kept saying, nope, he'll be the nominee. And as the list got shorter and shorter, and he was very often left off the short
Yep.
list, and then I kept saying, he'll be the nominee. And sure enough, he's our nominee, and he's so relatable, right? And I think there is a rationality, is that a word, of seeing Harris and with Walt standing behind her, that I
Mhm.
think will draw a lot of voters and draw a lot of undecideds.
Absolutely, and I heard, and again, I'm spitballing numbers, somebody can fact check my show later, but there's a large number of former, uh, I wanna say, the former president's workers that support just a couple days ago.
Right.
Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, yeah. Were they presidents, Haley? Do you remember? Or were they all presidents? But there was like 500 presidential candidates. So I think John McCain's first step, and there's like
Right,
500
right, right.
Republicans that have come out to support Harris, and that says something, right?
Yeah, and I gotta say this too, Robert. I'm not mainstream, but the mainstream media's got to get on the ball and really start talking about the great things that Biden and Harris have done. We were joking around with just being progressive. I believe Biden's been more progressive than probably since Johnson, or
Yep.
even FDR for that matter.
Yep, you could. Yep, I think you're right, and we'll see. That's why I'm really interested in the CNN interview tonight. We'll see
Yeah.
what they lift up. I mean, Waltz has a strong progressive record of passing legislation, but Harris, as vice president, broke ties in the Senate, right? And so she can legitimately be credited with passing some landmark legislation. So I think we'll see some of what they're going to pick up out of that record tonight as well.
Can you stay on another segment? This is super fun.
Oh, sure. Yep.
Right on. All right. Hey, Robert. Sorry to surprise you like that,
Yeah,
but we're
thanks.
having too much fun here. All right. Hey, this is Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and we're with Robert Lilligren and Haley Cherry. We'll be right back after this short break. Minnesota has the only original wolf population in the continental United States.
And 80% of Minnesotans believe the wolf should be protected.
Howling for Wolves is asking Minnesotans to respect our true wildlife manager, the wolf.
Their survival is critical to our ecosystems, our communities, and even our economy.
As highly intelligent animals with strong social bonds, Minnesota wolves deserve to be protected and admired.
Learn more at howlingforwolves.org. Let's live and let howl. J&S Bean Factory is a native-owned, community-supported, cozy, artsy coffee shop which offers roasted on-site beans, live music, and baked goods. Relax in the beautiful outside patio. City Pages writes, voted top 10 coffee shops. Tucked into a quiet corner of St. Paul's Highland Park neighborhood, this coffee shop roasts beans on-site from the best coffee-growing countries in the world. Located at 1518 Randolph Avenue, St. Paul. The good stuff.
Discover the emotional depth and vivid storytelling of Jay White's Arikara Proper at All My Relations Arts in Minneapolis. This solo exhibition celebrates Arikara culture through the lens of an urban Indian perspective. Experience themes of empowerment, depictions of Native women, stars, and star quilts within White's vibrant acrylic paintings. Arikara Proper is showing now through October 5th at All My Relations Arts in Minneapolis. Get inspired by Jay White's powerful storytelling on canvas. Details at allmyrelationsarts.org.
It's back to school time, which means getting back to school ready. One important thing to add to your to-do list this year is making sure your child is up to date on their vaccinations. Getting vaccinated will help your family avoid missing out on school, activities, work, family events, and vacation. Keep your family healthy by talking with your healthcare provider or visiting our free vaccination clinics in Minneapolis. Visit the City of Minneapolis website and search for vaccine clinics. A message from the Minneapolis Health Department.
AM 950 KTNF, St. Louis Park, Minneapolis, St. Paul.
Some people won't give you the real talk on drugs, but it's time we know the facts. Fentanyl is killing people. It's a powerful opioid, often made illegally and commonly mixed with illicit drugs. It can even be pressed into counterfeit pills that resemble prescription medications. Just 2 milligrams, about the size of a few grains of sand, can potentially be lethal. This isn't an ad to scare you, but it is an ad to make you think twice. Get the facts. Go to realdealonfentanyl.com. This message is brought to you by the Ad Council.
The city of Minneapolis is now on Native Roots Radio with Minneapolis AIR. AIR stands for American Indian Relations. Guest host Christine McDonald talks to people about important things affecting the city's Native communities. Minneapolis AIR dives into topics like public safety, public health, elections, and so much more. Tune in to Minneapolis Air on Native Roots Radio from 5 to 6 p.m. on the second Wednesday of every month, right here on AM 950.
You may have seen a certain truck in videos being shared on social media. How about the truth? I have yet to see any video of that truck outperforming the Toyota Sienna from Rudy Luther Toyota. I've driven Sienna since 2006. They handle the highways great, handle back roads, and handle 3 inches of snow a lot easier than the so-called super truck. Plus, my Sienna hybrid is super fuel efficient, tows great, has enough room for tons of gear, and doesn't look like it was drawn by a 6-year-old. Sienna wins. Test drive the top of its class Sienna today at Rudy Luther Toyota, 394 and 169 in Golden Valley.
With your AM 950 weather, I'm Patrick Lilia. Showers and storms this evening. Some could be severe with an overnight low of 61. Then Friday, sunshine with a high of 79.
The music is still the hottest at Crooner's Supper Club in Fridley. Crooner's is located just north of I-694 off Highway 65 and Moore Lake Drive. View their upcoming music schedules and food menus at croonersloungemn.com.
This is Leonard Feld here. I am in Coleman 1 U.S. Penitentiary, and I'm listening to Native Roots Radio.
And we're back to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awakened. This is Robert Pilot.
This portion of the show is supported by Native American Community Clinic on Franklin Avenue in Minneapolis, honoring health and tradition.
Hey, we are here with our friend Robert Lilligren, and Robert is the president and CEO of Native American Community Development Institute here in the Twin Cities, Minnesota. We are so happy to have you on. I want to switch gears a little bit, and then we can get back to a little politics talking, but just talk about what's happening at the Avenue. Today you had the market, and we got things going on in the gallery. Let's talk a little bit about that, if you don't mind, Robert.
Yeah, I appreciate it. I appreciate the time to talk about what we're doing at Native American Community Development Institute, NACDI, on the American Indian Cultural Corridor in Minneapolis. Today was our Four Sisters Farmers Market Day. It's one of our big food access and food sovereignty initiatives. It was a great market day, even without you two being there. You didn't see there, but it was really full, crowded. We had this great DJ, a Native guy who spins sort of vintage Native recordings, more pop music, but very vintage recordings. Yeah, that's a Justice. And that was great. It's a little windy toward the end. We shut it down an hour early because of the weather, the incoming weather, but it was a great day. And that complements our Four Sisters Urban Farm, which is very nearby there. And that's just going gangbusters. Not just with creating produce, but we're implementing our first medicine garden. The farm expands a little every year. So next is a medicine garden. Looking forward to that. At the gallery, you just had the nice promo with Jay White. They're amazing. I don't know if you've met her or talked with her. Very straight shooting, straight talking artist.
Haley has.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Something.
Lovely time with her.
I know. Within seconds of meeting her, she said something very inappropriate to me, but very funny, and really connected us. So we have a great event coming up, which is a live. It's sort of her artist talk, but she does live painting, and that's kind of her thing. And so that's September 14th at our gallery, 2 to 4 p.m. And that's at 1414 East Franklin on the American Indian Cultural Corridor. Strongly encourage people to do that. And then our other big kind of area of projects and programs is in civic engagement, and especially voter engagement, voter registration, voter outreach through our Make Voting a Tradition project. And this year that they are just off and running, working statewide, growing the pool of Native voters, and then tracking that progress to show we're part of a 5-state partnership this year where Native votes are enough to swing an election, right? So we have to make sure to get every Native voter there, and that's just going gangbusters. We have candidate forums scheduled and things, and just a lot happening. And just so folks know kind of the NACDI model, we stay grounded, authentically grounded in community through these areas: arts and culture, civic engagement, food sovereignty. And then we work to change systems, right? We engage with policy, with boardrooms, with non-Native institutions to better educate them about what's going on in the Native community. And so it's very satisfying work for me.
Well, you do other work too, and I've had the opportunity to kind of follow what you're doing and also be a part of what you're doing. And some of the work that you do for the Met Council is amazing. And then you've brought, how do you say, join the tribe or bring the tribe along? There's a lot of natives now because of your work that are plugged into what's happening in the Met Council, which,
Right.
you know, there's so many things that they do. I was blown away, and I thought I knew what they did.
Right. So it's our 7-county metropolitan government. I serve as a district rep, and I represent the big chunk of of almost all of South Minneapolis. So the Native community in a lot of the Native community in Minneapolis. Met Council is one of the most robust regional governments in the country, probably one of the most too robust. And over the last few years, and I appreciate your involvement in this, or the last 6 months even, we've really centered Native voices in our planning through an advisory council that's about to produce your final report and recommendations to the full Met Council. And I love this so much. The Met Council itself is doing a remote meeting on the American Indian Culture Corridor at the newly redesigned Minneapolis American Indian Center. And that's not a common thing for us to go meet in community. So I look forward to the presentation. I'm thrilled that this is happening, and maybe generate some Native attendance there as well. So the council can see our people and know that we're interested in being partners.
Well, and again, I have to applaud you. I know we've joked over the years how many committees you are on, but it's really breaking the glass ceiling, so to speak, and reminding people that we're still here. And your voice is so important and has opened that Met Council door to amazing things and amazing education and opportunities that I never thought there would be. I would be a part of, but that any Native would be a part of. So really big kudos to you,
You're
Robert.
very kind. You know, it's community effort. We used to joke about my 17 titles, right? And it's like, well, which one are you going to use today? But, as the first tribal citizen on the Minneapolis City Council, the first tribal citizen on Met Council, I have these other sort of civic firsts. And it's important to me not to promote myself, but there can't be a second, right, until there's a first. There can't be a fifth or 100th until there's a first. I mean, look at our lieutenant governor. What kind of doors she's opening as a Native woman. And with this Met Council work, I'll tell you, Robert and Haley, it's different. And so halfway through the Native Advisory Committee's work, they came and presented to the committee I chair at Met Council, which is concerned with the planning part, and amongst other things. And I had all my lists of arguments to sort of promote and lift up the Native perspective and the Native direction. And as the information and the work of the work group was presented, my colleagues on the council started making my arguments, and I could kind of check them off one by one. The stuff that I've always been the only one in the room that had said it before. And so it's a different day. That's my point. I think there's an acknowledgement of the importance of centering Native voices, of engaging them. And I remember at this committee meeting, I was almost crying. And I said, you guys have to realize I'm accustomed to being the only person in the room saying these things. So go ahead.
Yeah, that's huge. And that brings me back kind of to what we've been talking about, especially with this election and how important it is that I've matured over the years, Robert, that I think I was more of a one issue voter. And I've really matured over the years that we have to look at the big picture and how much progress we have. There's a lot to go, don't get me wrong, but how much we have in the last 10 years.
Right. And it's the generations coming up. I mean, look at Haley here, as we've talked about before, young Native people overall, young Native leadership, that's emerging are so much more grounded in their cultures, their languages, their histories, their traditional spirituality, and you can see the impact that's happening. And so really at this point in my life, it's trying to figure out how do we pass this on. It's your
Yeah.
turn, we destroyed the world in my generation. Sorry, we need you to come and help us heal.
Well, and
Yeah.
it's been a slow, gradual, positivity towards whether it's history, whether it's book. I mean, we've sold so many at the state fair, banished forever the removal of Ho Chunk from Minnesota, and people just don't know the story, but are learning and want to learn. All our white allies out there that listen to this show too, all
Right.
over civic media in the Twin Cities. We're just so grateful because I'm a conduit to really good guests like you that are experienced in the way it was, the way it's happening, and the way it's going to be.
Well, that's so kind. Thanks for the kind words. Thanks for your work, the two of you. I can't wait to see you out at the fair. I'm going tomorrow. And
Ooh.
Hey, I'm
going to see
going
Nancy.
out too.
Yeah. You'll be out there, Haley?
Yeah, we all will be, I think.
Yeah. I won't be working though because I'm still tired from the DNC, and I had to work like 5 days at the fair for my kids because my
Well, I
daughter.
know at your age, Robert, you need to get your rest.
Yeah.
Sure do. We don't even want to talk about when it was 100 degrees and what I accidentally told
I
Haley.
can't go out there. I was sorry to miss Indigenous Peoples Day out at the state fair. It looks great from everything I saw on the socials, but I cannot be out in that kind of heat.
I know. I know. Isn't that sad? I used to love this stuff and lay in the beach and cry and go swimming, and now it's like I gotta go home and turn the air conditioning on.
Yeah, I used to love to sit and get hot and sweat. I can't spend that much time outside. But these are exciting times, and the generational shift that's happening within Indian country. It's so gratifying to see. And then, of course, here, we had so many of our founders, AIM founders, other people who established cultural cornerstones here, and we're losing them. It's that time, it's that season. And so people like you and me are kind of a bridge, right? But I just wonder what they would think if they saw some of the young people coming up the way they are.
Well, and then just to we only got a couple minutes left, but we talk about in our lifetime, I'm being 63 years old, and that we were able to practice our own religion, and we were both like juniors in high school, and how amazing that is. And so there was a lot of, a couple generations of natives that had to acclimate to survive and do a lot of things to survive. And now we have a newer generation are coming up and are taking what they deserve and what's theirs.
Right. And I agree. And the interesting thing, is that genocide and then forced assimilation worked, right? And so Native people almost disappeared, right? But they didn't. And the growth we've seen, not just in numbers, the population is, when the Indian community is a growing population in this country, a contemporary population. And I think as we try to figure our way out of a lot of the problems in our world, in our country, it's indigenous ways that are going to really be our solutions.
Wow, great way to end it. Thank you so much, Robert. It's always fun and inspiring to have you on the show, really. Right on. Hey, up next, this is Native Roots Radio. Up next, we have Robert Blake, Solar Bear with the Solar News. We'll be right back.
It's back to school time, which means getting back to school ready. One important thing to add to your to-do list this year is making sure your child is up to date on their vaccinations. Getting vaccinated will help your family avoid missing out on school, activities, work, family events, and vacation. Keep your family healthy by talking with your healthcare provider or visiting our free vaccination clinics in Minneapolis. Visit the City of Minneapolis website and search for vaccine clinics. A message from the Minneapolis Health Department.
The City of Minneapolis is now on Native Roots Radio with Minneapolis AIR. AIR stands for American Indian Relations. Guest host Christine McDonald talks to people about important things affecting the city's Native communities. Minneapolis AIR dives into topics like public safety, public health, elections, and so much more. Tune in to Minneapolis Air on Native Roots Radio from 5 to 6 p.m. on the second Wednesday of every month, right here on AM 950.
Bonjour, hello. My name is Wabin. I am an enrolled member of the White Earth Nation, descendant of the Navajo Nation, and co-chair of the Indigenous Employee Resource Group with the Minnesota Department of Transportation. MnDOT is hiring for a variety of positions from road maintenance to accounting and more. We offer great benefits. For more information or to set up a one-on-one resume and application assistance, visit mn.gov/careers, or you can text or call 612-257-2388. 612-257-2388.
J&S Bean Factory is a native-owned, community-supported, cozy, artsy coffee shop which offers roasted on-site beans, live music, and baked goods. Relax in the beautiful outside patio. City Pages writes, voted top 10 coffee shops. Tucked into a quiet corner of St. Paul's Highland Park neighborhood, this coffee shop roasts beans on-site from the best coffee-growing countries in the world. Located at 1518 Randolph Avenue, St. Paul. The good stuff.
Anine, I'm Lieutenant Governor Peggy Flanagan, and you are listening to Native Roots Radio.
Welcome back to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and this is Robert Pilot.
This portion of the show is supported by Howling for Wolves, protecting wolves for future generations.
Hey, right on. Hey, Bob, are you out in the storm there? What the heck?
I'm caught in the storm, Robert. I am caught in the storm. It's coming down. It is coming down out here.
You know my native name, right? My native name is Wakunjahade, which means distant thunder. So we like the storm here just to keep the show going, right?
Yeah, absolutely, man. Hey, distant thunder. I didn't know that. That's so cool, Robert.
Hey, thanks. I want to mention a couple things before you give us our Solar Bear report. And one of the things, I don't know if you've seen on my Facebook, but I was driving down the street heading home from the fair, and there was a car that was a Tesla. And I was like, at first I didn't know what it was because I looked at it and it had the same font, right? And it said Kamala on there instead of Tesla with the same font and the same letters on the back of the car. I thought that was awesome. It was crazy.
Well,
it was like on Summit Avenue.
Yeah, and you know that Elon Musk has been catching a lot of flack for the comments he's been making, you know, and his like support of Trump. I mean, I don't know. I feel like he's going off the deep end or something, Robert.
Yeah, well, also what was really ironic about that day, Robert, was that I posted a thing that said spotted on a Tesla earlier that day, and it was like kind of a sticker on the window. It said, I bought this before we knew Elon was crazy. So that have Teslas give those guys that have Teslas a break, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you know, and that really brings up a really good segue, Robert, into electric vehicles. They're saying, Robert, that in a couple of years that we're going to have the same amount of charging stations, you know, around the country as like, you know, gas stations. So, you know, we're still lagging behind, but the point being there is that, you know, the easier we make it for everybody to be able to charge their vehicle, the quicker adoption we'll have of electric vehicles. So that's really what I think this administration has been really trying to focus in on. And I hopefully, you know, we get Kamala to, you know, fingers crossed here. I'm feeling pretty confident about it, Robert. But if we get that particular, you know, administration in, I can only see that this will go, you know, very successful with this outlay of all these charging stations.
Yeah, definitely. And I really, well, let me just put it this way. Joe Biden's probably the most progressive president we've ever had, and probably since FDR and Johnson with the New Deal and all that, and hope our Vice President Harris will pick that up. And I know Governor Walz has been behind a lot of our progressiveness here in the state.
Yeah, and I mean, and I think like the big thing, Robert, is just like, I mean, climate change is real. I mean, it's just happening, and cheap energy, is good for democracy, is good for the planet, and it's really what drives world leadership. And we've known that because in this country we've always had cheap energy, right? And so we know that that drives industry, that drives businesses, that drives economies. So I really feel like if we have if we focus in on cheap energy, and you really see the states that are doing that, those are the economies that are going to be doing really well in the future. And China is doing this. Germany has done that, and look at their economy. So, I mean, when you think about it that way, I mean, that's why I really believe that focusing in on charging stations, electric vehicles, renewable energy, it's really going to happen. And specifically, Robert, too, tribal nations need to start making this switch too, in this adjustment. One of the folks that I work with is doing a big project on one of these army bases, and was kind of giving me some insight onto what they're doing, talking to me about stuff. And it was really interesting because I was thinking to myself, wow, man, they're really preparing these army bases for for climate change. And I just think about how our cities and our towns really need to be focused on that also.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, good point. And I think it is, and the government has really helped out with that, and with a lot of grants and things like that are still popping up there, and so it's exciting to be doing this. It's exciting. It's really exciting, and we talk about, Bob, you've been on the show for 8 years working on this, and just how much growth the industry has happened, and the things that you've been working on, and the awards you're getting.
I can't believe, Robert, that it's been that long, and I've been screaming from the top of the mountain on this stuff forever, and it's actually coming true. It's ridiculous. We were just talking about this the other day. I was out of town, and I was just like, wow, I can't believe that this dream or this vision that I had is actually happening, and it's becoming reality. And it's amazing to see how everything is progressing. But I mean, like I said, we still have a lot of work to do. We still have a lot more to get done. But I mean, it's really exciting, Robert, just to see kids, to see people that are looking into doing this for career. The jobs that have grown in the renewable energy industry is remarkable. Joe Biden, the Biden administration is good. September 5th, they're going to southwestern Wisconsin to talk about the Inflation Reduction Act and the jobs that have been created by this historic legislation, Robert. So that's happening next week, so on September 5th. He's going to southwestern Wisconsin. So I think that's just incredible. All the jobs and all the opportunities that are coming from all this. And we just got to get out and vote too, Robert, in November.
Yeah.
Like, everybody's got to get out. Like, we can't pretend we got this.
Right.
We've been bamboozled before. It's just so important that you talk to 10 of your family members. I'm now on a PAC. I'm on a board member on a political action committee, and I do this on my free time, everyone. Bob Blake, just regular citizen guy, want to make that clear. But I mean, it's those kinds of things, Robert. You always say on this, run for office, like start a company, start a nonprofit, like all those things. Like it's so true.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you've been leading the way, and it's funny watching this and experiencing it both the trajectory of Solar Bear and also Native Roots Radio, and then we went down to DNC and learned and met all those other Indians that are doing great work around the country. And yeah, and you gave out a T-shirt to Amy Klobuchar. I'll never forget that.
And Robert, I just want to say too, like, honestly, like what you're doing with this radio show, I mean, you are just giving a voice to like so many folks. Air the American Indian, that thing. That, I mean, you know what I mean? Because we just started this thing like Native Roots Radio. I'm awake, you know, and the Solar Bear with the Solar News, and all these people are coming on now, and it's so cool to see their little segments and everything, Robert. So miigwech, Robert, you're the best.
Hey, you are too. Thank you so much for what you do for our people and the community. Really great having you on every week, Robert. That's Bob Blake with Solar Bear with the Solar News, and he's signing off. Hey, if you're listening to the show, you're part of the resistance from Chief Plentycoops. The ground on which we stand on is sacred ground. It is the blood of our ancestors. We need to resist, divest, join a group, run for office, and vote, vote, vote. We're still here. We are the 7th generation.
And free Leonard Peltier now.
Are you looking for a fulfilling